Can I begin by asking you about the latest information from China, because that's obviously very concerning. What are you hearing is happening in China?
Right. So I'm the director responsible for the WHO European region, which has 53 member states. So China is not belonging to the region, but we know obviously that there are cases over there. But it relates to what we are telling the countries, that no one is safe until everyone is safe. It means there is no time for celebration, but time for preparation. That if you see the cases going down, it is the time to put in place a very solid track, test, and tracing strategy, because ultimately there is no treatment yet, there is no vaccine yet. So the biggest threat, whether it is in China or in Europe, where most of the countries are lifting lockdowns, is complacency. And that's why we need community engagement. The behavior of the people in Europe will determine the course of the pandemic.
So are you concerned as you see lockdowns being lifted, that people are just forgetting what's coming?
Absolutely. This is definitely a concern with the summer coming for a number of reasons. We don't think there will be a second wave over the summer, although we never know, but maybe flaring up in a club, in a karaoke bar, in places where people are really coming together and not respecting the public health measures. But we have to prepare for the fall, where we may see coronavirus meeting the seasonal influenza virus and other viral pathogens. So really, complacency is our biggest enemy as of today.
So why do you think that there won't be a second wave in the summer?
Well, there is a difference between a second wave and a second peak. A second wave is usually when the cases really go very, very down. But in the bigger Europe, the virus is still active. In Western Europe, the situation is improving a lot. But currently, we are very active in quite a number of Eastern European countries. Another reason may be that people did go through quite a traumatic experience, and we count on the people now to respect the public health measures, hand washing, physical distancing. And with the fall coming and the winter, of course, people will start to live again much more closer in aggregate settings. There may be also a seasonality linked to the virus, but that we are not sure about as of today.
Right, so what lessons can we learn from China? If China is already having another spike in cases in Beijing, what has caused it?
Well, what we can learn, whether it's from China or other countries, is that ultimately the virus is still there. It's a relatively new virus. We're learning every single day. That's why sometimes the recommendations have to be adapted as well, and that there is no time for complacency. The governments in the European region have done a lot. Every single country has done a lot of positive things. Every single country could also improve a number of things, but now it's especially with the people. So we have to be very strong on risk communication, community engagement, and listen to COVID survivors and families who unfortunately have lost beloved ones. I always say it's not because we don't hear anymore for a while about deadly road traffic accidents that we have to forget to wear the safety belt.
Right, but I mean, what are you getting from your colleagues in the East and in China about what has happened there? Because I mean, it's crucial that countries learn that, you know, the lesson from this first wave has been that the world has actually been very patchy in how it has learned lessons from each other. Some countries have been good, some countries have been very bad. We now desperately need to know what's going on with China, and it doesn't seem clear that there's very much hard information.
Well, I would disagree with the statement that there are countries which were doing very bad. I mean, if I speak about the 53 European countries, every country, I'm in daily touch with 2 ministers, 3 ministers, prime ministers, are working very hard. It's true that no country system is perfect. And we should remember that it's a balance between protecting the health of the population, the social and economic consequences, and the well-being of the people. So even for the health of the people, too long lockdowns are also not sustainable. We have figures now that 50% of the services dealing with hypertension management, 40% of the services managing diabetes have been disrupted to some degree. 60% of case detection of tuberculosis have gone down. So in that sense, the system has to pick up, but we have to learn is to implement what we know. It's the core of the strategy is to quickly find, isolate, test, and if need be, treat suspect cases and confirmed cases, and track and quarantine contact. So contact tracing is a very essential element when we're going through lifting the lockdowns and when we see cases decreasing.
Right. What about the difference between 2 meters and 1 meter social distancing? Is 1 meter safe?
The WHO recommendation, based on the available evidence on how droplets are being carried forward, is minimum 1 meter. But then it depends on the country. Some countries go for 1.5 or 2 meters. This is a individual risk assessment and also depending on the feasibility. The key issue is not 1 meter or 2 meters. The key issue is that people adhere and do it as part of the other public health measures: washing the hands, respiratory hygiene, physical distancing, and also the face masks when there is community transmission and there is a crowding of people.
But is it safe to say that if Britain reduces the distance from 2 meters to 1 meter, the number of infections won't go up?
If everyone adheres to the broad package of public health measures, it should be possible. Minimum 1 meter means 1 meter or above. But hand washing, cough hygiene, if coughing in the elbow or in the tissue and then put it away, and adhere to the distancing, and also with the face mask. So in that sense, 1 meter or above is the recommendation of WHO based on the available evidence.
Now, what about eradication as a strategy for individual countries? Is this possible now, given what we see in places like New Zealand, that European countries could eradicate coronavirus?
Well, we have to start from the start. It means that as of today, there is no safe and effective treatment yet, nor a vaccine. Of course, this is being developed with an unprecedented speed, and I would like to thank all the agencies, researchers, public and private sector, for a coordinated effort. So we are hopeful, but let's remember that for some other pandemics, like the pandemic of HIV/AIDS, unfortunately, we still do not have a vaccine. And it will take some time because a vaccine has to be safe but effective. So the two criteria, it has to be really qualified. So in that sense, let's implement what we know. On the other hand, it can also go in a positive direction. If there would be a mutation more to the positive, but we don't know this. So I say, let's hope for the best, but prepare for the worst.
So you seem to be saying that the only way we can eradicate is if we get a vaccine. Why can't we do it? Why can't we do it by having proper measures, quarantine, distancing, lockdowns, and all the rest of it to stop transmission, as they have done in other countries?
Right, but let's remember that in previous pandemics, and we had a lot of pandemics experience even 100 years ago with the Spanish flu, that countries which did very fine during the first wave were sometimes hit worse in the second wave. So people sometimes ask, and why Italy? And why Spain and not that country? We have to be very careful. No one is safe until everyone is safe. So it's far too early to draw some conclusive lessons as of today.
Right, but that's partly because of travel, isn't it? The Spanish flu lesson is because of population movements. If you have proper quarantine measures that stop the disease coming into your country, why couldn't you eradicate it?
because no system is watertight. There is also an incubation. So you can identify some people, even at the border, with strict public health measures, but no system is that watertight. So also you have to look at the societal and economic consequences, at the well-being. Let's not forget that a recent study from the UK Office on National Statistics showed that about 31% of the respondents had a feeling of loneliness, and more the younger people than the elder people, although the elder people certainly are a group not to be left behind. So it's a bit more complicated than that.
Just finally, again, to come back to the lessons from China, right now in Britain, we are looking at Beijing where they have a spike and that they're locking down again. I'm wondering, well, is that going to happen here? When China
Well,
says...
it happened already. It happened already. When Israel and France reopened the schools, they had to close a number of schools because the spikes were there. In Denmark, here where I'm hosted, the same recently. So in that sense, this is nothing surprising. I mean, the virus is still there. We need community engagement and no complacency.
And when China says it's had less than 200 cases in the last few days, do you believe that number?
I mean, we in WHO, we rely on the reports from the countries. That's a system. And I would refrain to comment on China because China is outside of the WHO European region. We have a very competent region director there, a very competent WHO representative. So in that sense, I rather focus on the WHO European region.
Dr. Kluge, thank you very much indeed.